Stream season is underway. Keep up with me at twitch.tv/foolishbaseball.
Giraffe Neck Mark already did this
how
one?
dare you, sir?
You
Sir,
already
how
did this
dare
joke
you?
in the Game 7
Man, you're
video.
really out of ideas, huh?
The center fielder for the Tri-State Arsenal here in Jupiter is a young man by the name of Michael Trout. Big key with Michael is going to be his bat. He has shown flashes of having excellent bat speed and hitting ability in the past, but if he gets that bat up to where the speed and defensive ability is, he could be a top 3-round pick in the 2009 draft.
Oh boy, he could be in the top 3 rounds? Wow. On June 9th, 2009, representatives from each MLB team met in Secaucus, New Jersey for that year's draft. With the first pick, the Washington Nationals selected Stephen Strasburg. Hey, we've talked about him, his debut, his career. This was really to no one's surprise. Strasburg was the best draft prospect the game had seen in years. There's no chance I'm going to criticize this move. But after that, the teams you see here all picked the top remaining players on their boards en route to the 25th selection of the draft. And every single one of these teams made a big mistake.
And it drives me completely bonkers, man. It drives me completely bonkers.
While the draft is a huge, flashy event for other sports, likely due to the immediate impact that top picks can have on their franchises, Major League Baseball's is, let's say, more intimate affair. The players drafted are still very much works in progress, who won't contribute at the big league level for some time. Unless, they're Mike Trout, in which case they're already a superstar and become the best player in the majors just a few years later. This, however, was a very special draft. It was the first one ever broadcast from the brand new MLB Network studios. The network itself had just launched earlier that year, and this was their chance to create a draft broadcast with the fervor you might see for the NFL or NBA. They sent out invites to all the top talent to make a pilgrimage to Secaucus, New Jersey. The problem?
We can only get one kid to show up. We only got one player. Only one high school kid showed up.
And as Commissioner Bud Selig started rattling off names, it became apparent that the lone guest was going to have to wait a while. The same thing happened to Aaron Rodgers in the 2005 NFL Draft when he was left all alone in the green room. Speaking of quarterbacks, maybe some of you have heard of the Brady Six, the 6 quarterbacks drafted before Tom Brady in 2000. I think it's time we talked about the Trout 24. Right now, you're looking at a chart of the top 25 picks from the 2009 draft, sorted by Baseball Reference wins above replacement. This is the quickest, simplest way one can ascertain a player's value over the course of their career. We can start with the players whose major league contributions have been deemed under replacement level. There's 4 of them, starting with Detroit's 9th overall pick Jacob Turner, and ending with Matt Perk, the only pick ahead of Trout that didn't sign. The Rangers used that compensation pick to draft a guy named Jake Skull, who, you guessed it, never made the majors. Speaking of never made the majors, I would argue these guys actually had a worse outcome than the below replacement level guys. I really want to highlight Donovan Tate, Bobby Borchering, and Giovanni Meyer. They were high school hitters just like Trout. Mike Trout, the guy with the Baseball Reference page. Tate was even an outfielder. More on them later. Also, shoutouts to 4th overall pick Tony Sanchez for getting that .1 WAR. He's above replacement level. Next up is a collection of real Major League non-factors. That may be a bit harsh on Drew Storen, who turned into a solid relief pitcher, but WAR isn't really the right tool to assess relievers to begin with. Let's move on. The mediocrity is making me sick. This is probably where you start to see some recognizable names. Dustin Ackley, who hasn't played in the majors since 2016, is viewed as a huge draft bust at number 2 overall, but he's actually looked solid sandwiched between Wheeler and Grichuk. Speaking of Grichuk, someone with a keen eye may have spotted the Angels on the list of teams that passed on Mike Trout, and that's technically true. The Angels had picks number 24 and 25 in that year's draft, and they elected to pick Grichuk ahead of Trout. This may have been for signing bonus negotiation, or they may have just liked him more. Who knows? There's also 3 pitchers on this list, and they all have one thing in common. You get a Tommy John, you get a Tommy John, you get a Tommy John. The UCL is a fickle mistress. More names. In this case, Leak has had the benefit of accumulating WAR due to his clean bill of health. That's what you get when you throw about 89 miles per hour on a good day. Minor and Pollock have had their ups and downs with injuries, but it's safe to say that they are very good players when healthy. We sure traveled for a while there. It's Stephen Strasburg with a very respectable 30.1 WAR as the surefire #1 pick in this draft. Can't fault the Nats there. By the way, you get a Tommy John.
Oh.
After Strasburg, there's only one guy left to visit. Look, we're gonna travel for a while to get to Trout here. You want some snacks? Bottled water? Maybe you want to tell me about your day? Oh, good, we're here. Yep, 68.3 wins above replacement. Sure is lonely at the top. Can we get some Hall of Famers around him? Yeah, that really puts it into perspective. I think what makes Trout so frustrating is that he was clearly a great player from the moment he started in the minors. He almost instantly became a top prospect. It's not like he made unexpected adjustments to his game either, like suddenly developing a power stroke. He hit 18 home runs in his senior year of high school, a New Jersey record. I know hindsight is 20/20, but come on, guys.
25th overall? Are you serious? It drives me bonkers.
Sorry, I need to calm down. So now it's time to answer the obvious question. Where did all these big shot scouting departments go wrong? To me, the answer is surprisingly clear. Back in Secaucus, the names we just learned about are flying off the board. Our mysterious protagonist waits on, and the presenters at MLB Network are getting anxious.
There's pick number 10, there's pick number 15, pick number 20, and looking over and go, oh man, please, somebody draft this kid.
Now back to our scheduled programming. What you're looking at now is a map of the country. Here are the states with high schools or colleges that each first-round draft pick was coming out of in 2009. You may notice some real hotbeds of baseball talent. California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida are real standouts, and this is pretty typical year to year. But you'll also notice that the other states tend to trend southward as well. The vast majority of these players are coming from schools where the weather is expected to be warm and sunny by the time baseball season rolls around. In fact, the only first-rounders who played north of Trout were Boston College's Tony Sanchez and Notre Dame's A.J. Pollock. And it goes without saying that ACC college baseball is much more respected than New Jersey high school baseball, where Trout often faced low-level opposition. So let's travel up to Millville, New Jersey, home of Mike Trout's Millville High School. The average high in Millville in March of 2009, when Trout's senior season was underway, 52 degrees. The average low, just below freezing. It's really hard to scout players in the northeastern United States' climate. Games get canceled, postponed, or played out, but in sloppy conditions.
It's nasty.
There was also a historical bias working against Trout. The last great star hitter to come out of high school in New Jersey was Hall of Famer Joe Ducky Medwick. He retired in 1948, over 60 years before Trout was drafted. Theo Epstein is probably the best baseball executive of his generation. Back in 2009, he was GM of the Red Sox and ran one of the few front offices that didn't get a chance to pick Mike Trout. He still would have passed though, and when he explained why, the two main reasons were the weather and the showcases. See, high school games are one thing, but there are other ways for top prospects to get exposure. Perfect Game USA has a near monopoly on scouting top high school talent, and they put on talent showcases all over the country. Remember these three guys? Tate, Borchering, and Meyer. They were the three high school hitters drafted ahead of Mike Trout, and none of them made the majors. They were each more active than Trout on the perfect game scene, racking up double-digit events in comparison to Trout's 8. They also got started sooner, with each making their showcase debut a year or two before Trout, despite being in the same graduating class. Yet, fast forward just a few years later, and the three showcase sweethearts were floundering in the minors while Trout was tracing Triple Crown winner Miguel Cabrera in a legendary MVP race. Heck, we can even see it in their numbers from the low minors. Here's how Trout fared in A-ball, and here's the other three guys. Yeah, he was just that much better from the get-go. Mike Trout is not a story about developing skills in the minors. The skills he's developed, like bringing up walks and bringing down strikeouts, have been mostly in the majors. This isn't some triumphant tale of hard work and overcoming the odds. This is a story of these front offices whiffing on an all-time talent because of what, exactly? Bad weather? And showcases?
It just drives me bonkers, man. It just drives me bonkers. 21 teams had a chance. You biffed it. You biffed.
If there's a baseball god, let somebody take this kid in the first round. Please, somebody take him.
5 years after the 2009 MLB Draft, Mike Trout had the worst year of his career. Of the 7 full seasons he has played, 2014 ranks as his worst batting average, worst on-base percentage, second worst slugging, and worst OPS. He also registered the highest strikeout rate and second lowest walk rate of his career. Things weren't great in the outfield either, as he put up a negative 5.9 UZR, which is also a career low. The only season he has with fewer wins above replacement is his injury-shortened 2017 campaign. And you know what? He won the 2014 MVP award with all 30 first-place votes. That's how good Mike Trout is. Now let's see if that high school kid who is still sitting and waiting in Secaucus will finally get picked.
With the 25th selection in the first round of the 2009 first-year player draft, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim select Michael Trout.
Yep, as you probably guessed, the one guy who showed up to the 2009 MLB Draft was Mike Trout. A whole crew of names that baseball fans won't recognize were picked before him, but in the end, he has the last laugh. After the draft ends, the front office executives and scouts of each MLB team pat themselves on the back. They each went with their top available picks on their draft boards and are feeling very pleased with themselves. The 21 teams that had their chance at Trout and passed don't know the mistake they've made, but they soon will. They soon will.